I think it's really nice to see the appetite of utilities and other infrastructure owners for this kind of technologies. So thank you very much for organizing all of this. Just a couple of words about Spottitt. So Spottitt is one of the leaders in providing satellite analytics to infrastructure, in particular utilities. We work a lot with power TSOs and DSOs in the oil and gas. In the water sector, we help renewable energy companies and we are starting other projects on roads and railways as well. And we operate all over the world, while our presence is mainly in Europe. We are based in Oxford, but we have offices in Poland, and I am in the United States. The main services that we provide to our customers via satellite derived data are vegetation monitoring, so everything around vegetation management, third-party work and change detection. This is useful to see if there are any illegal or unnotified activities around, let's say, underground or overhead networks. We monitor the biodiversity also of territories. We work with governments as well, but also with utilities themselves that sometimes are really looking to track the performance of the biodiversity of their right-of-ways. We monitor climate conditions as well. This is also something that is done via satellites. We have historical data 20 years back in time. Land and asset motion monitoring. We monitor the land movements at millimeters, let's say, per year of movement. And we also monitor gas leaks, which is quite a new technology. There are new methane sensors in space, and this is a very interesting domain. Word to you, Hamad.
So yeah, hello everyone. I'm Ahmed Qaddura, co-founder at Dronodat. And yeah, first let me say thank you to Spottitt for the invite and hopefully, delightful conversation. And yeah, so Dronodat, basically we also work with geospatial analytics and GIS and data analysis, and we do utilize drones and other methods for that. So what we do actually is we do vegetation management for power lines, same as Spottitt as well, but with drones. We do mapping, so orthomosaics, DTMs, and DSMs. This can be really helpful with construction primarily. And we do object and defect detection. So this is with solar panels and wind turbines, etc. So we can detect things like hot cells and cracks and rust, etc. And we also do 3D modeling and visualizations. We have dedicated products for both vegetation management and 3D modeling. And yeah, a lot of people actually mistake us to be just like a drone service provider. But we actually provide an end-to-end solution. And what that means is we do the data collection with the drones. Yes, we do the servicing, but we also deal with GIS and geospatial analytics and AI. And so we also provide data analysis. And finally, we also, turns out people are not really ready to receive this type of data. So point clouds and kind of a modern way to do maintenance and operations in the commercial sector. So we also provide the platforms to deliver this data and it's basically a platform to monitor your assets and manage your assets.
All right, thank you, Ahmad. So before starting our battle and talking about the benefits and advantages of both technologies, I would like to start talking about a few common grounds that we have in terms of when we speak to asset managers. What are the main challenges that they're facing today? Because of course, a technology is only it only improves if it solves problems. So I would like to briefly mention a few, I believe, common problems that asset managers are facing today, starting from aging assets, which is, of course, key. We talk with companies that are managing thousands of kilometers of assets that are 70 or 80 years old. And of course, it becomes a challenge to prioritize the areas where to do reinvestments or asset replacement. And it's a challenge also to monitor the health conditions of the assets. At the same point, we are starting to see that in some countries, SAIDI and SAIFI indicators are becoming quite challenging to meet in terms of, reliability is becoming more and more important for TSO, and talking about the power industry in particular, so for TSOs and DSOs. And as at the same time also safety concerns, because many of our customers work with have teams that go to the fields, that go to check the assets, and of course there are safety concerns when they do their job. So they're trying to look for new solutions that try to avoid these safety concerns. Climate change, of course, is huge. It's happening everywhere, and but in a differently. Let's say every country is experiencing different climate change phenomena, different new extreme weather events. Sometimes heat waves, sometimes it's storms, sometimes it's icing. But climate change also has an impact, for example, on the growing season, on how the growing season are changing. So how do we track these? How do we understand in the long run how climate change is impacting the health conditions and risks of our assets? And lastly, digitalization. It's the digital transformation is, of course, an objective of most of the industries, and in particular utilities and other infrastructure. We are trying, asset managers are really trying to move away from purely visual inspections and documents that get lost, and to get digital data that can compare over time, and where that they can use in order also to train new models based also on artificial intelligence. Ahmad, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, let me add to this. I mean, to emphasize the idea of climate change, I mean, you went on the direction of like basically climate change is causing troubles to asset owners. So they are kind of destroying and damaging their assets, but it's also like digitalization from another perspective. It helps with climate change. So really managing things like, for example, vegetation management for power lines. It really is an issue in terms of like wildfires and power outages, etc. So digitalizing that just naturally will help also with climate change and like reducing your carbon footprint and whatnot. So yes, you would be maybe surprised how big companies still with energy in the energy sector are inspecting their assets with like pen and paper and really just merely looking at the assets. So yeah, definitely digitalization should happen.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on. Now it's my turn, and let's start addressing some. Unless Ahmad, you had anything to add on this slide?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So let's start talking about three main advantages of satellites. The first one is scale. This is a picture, an example of a survey that we did for one of our customers. The beauty, of course, the first characteristic of satellites, where they are unparalleled, is the scale. We at Spottitt are actually able to not only monitor, so take the picture, but to analyze the picture of even thousands of kilometers of networks in just a few days. This is, of course, for any other technology, this is impossible. This is because, of course, of the scale of the images themselves, and of course also due to the algorithms that we developed and the artificial intelligence which is able to automatically detect what's happening within the image. So scale is surely the main benefit that companies that use satellite benefit from. The second is satellites are cost effective. So there are no cheaper solution in terms of a cheaper digital solution. So sometimes we face customers in, let's say, in less advanced countries where, where still manual surveys and foot surveys done by the team are actually can be a bit cheaper. But in most of the cases, and especially if we look at the spectrum of digital solutions, satellites are way cheaper than any other. So this is also something related to scale. So not only you can get updates at scale, but you can get those updates more frequently because, again, of the costs. So in the same budget, we are able to do multiple passes during the year and unlock new insights, for example, regarding the growth rates of the vegetation, or for example, to understand third parties, let's say the evolution of third party works and what's happening around the assets. So this is also another key characteristic of this technology. And the third one is that it's completely effortless. We don't require any hardware. We don't require any field inspection. Satellite data is just digital data that comes to your laptop or to your desktop without really any effort. The only thing that we require from the customer is actually the location of their assets. This is also, I think, a topic that we'll touch a bit later, but in general, really, there is no easier solution than satellites when it comes to monitoring assets at scale. And let's go to drones.
Yes, so I'll start with accuracy. So I'll talk about why is it important and so on. But first, like, drones are much more accurate, of course, because they're much more closer to planet Earth, unlike satellites. So we do have the advantage here of resolution, and we do have the advantage of using things like LiDAR and so on effectively. So accuracy, like, I can give you an example. So bridge inspections. So people, as you can imagine, they routinely inspect bridges for cracks and damages. And you can't really rely on an accuracy of things like 50 centimeters or meters or even 10 centimeters. You really need to run it down to millimeter accuracy. And I mean, also with vegetation management, you need to be accurate with that. So with highly dense, so it's really, so each country would have its own standards, but we're talking about like a few meters here is usually the standard of how far the vegetation should be far from the power lines. So it is important. You can't really miss by a meter or half a meter. That can be really problematic. So I would say drones really provide a better solution in that sense, or at least more practical. And same thing for pipeline inspections, I would say. And one second, like with pipeline inspections, you can really like basically detect where the gas leak is accurately and not just like a general idea of it. But yeah, that's it, I guess, for accuracy. We can go to the next point, which is the operational flexibility. So what I mean by that is that, I mean, you just said in your first point that, I mean, satellites are the fastest, and that's true. Like, they are the fastest in terms of covering projects at scale. But in terms of, like, let's say someone wants to inspect their pipelines, so we're talking about gas leaks, they want to inspect their pipelines, let's say, in the matter of a week or a few days. Or so, unlike satellites, they have like preset orbits and scheduling, and you need to wait kind of for the data to reach you until you get your solution actually done. Yeah, drones can be effective immediately. And yeah, so they are helpful in, let's say, urgent scenarios and when there's a deadline. Another part of operational flexibility is location-wise. So let's say, yeah, I think a lot of people talked about this already, but like we are not limited by clouds or like certain weird terrains like mountains or indoor inspections, you know. I would say also drones would have an advantage there. Yeah, that's it, I guess, for operational flexibility. For tailored solutions for diverse issues, so yeah, I mean, we can drones can deliver a more diverse a solution or solutions. So, for example, we can really give you the exact location. We can really give you the exact location of your assets. So, as Nicola was just saying, one of the things that we ask from energy companies is the location of their power lines, and that's usually not really accurate. So it can be even mistaken by like maybe a meter or so. I'm not sure. So with drones, you can actually provide that, and that would also like help satellites in some sense. But this is one thing. We can also provide thermal inspection. We can also detect damage in insulators, so that's a big issue, and really detect if all the insulators for the power lines, if they are damaged or not. We can also see if the towers are leaning, you know, left or right, front or forward or backward. And we can even, like, one thing I think is interesting, we can detect vegetation around the power lines that can be harmful for workers there. So things like poison ivy and just certain type of vegetation. So just in general, a bigger arsenal of solutions that we can provide here.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Ahmad.
Yeah.
So I would have a comment on something that you said around operational flexibility, because you said that satellites they have their own orbit, so they cannot pass, let's say, often and frequently, so you cannot get access to that data whenever you want. But actually, we as Spottitt partner with have access to more than 300 satellites out there. So I would say that we are actually able to potentially capture multiple images over the same day in the same place, which I don't think drones would be able to do.
Yeah,
just
that's a note. Yeah, I know. Like, understandable, of course. I mean, you can even say there will be more and more satellites going up there, and you will have more flexibility with that as well. But in terms of initiating something, let's say you want to do something tomorrow or after tomorrow or so on, you would still even need some time for the data to arrive and to analyze the data and so on. So I do think drones might have a more of a real-time analysis advantage. But yeah, granted, there are definitely more satellites, and I know that Spottitt, they work with 200 plus satellites, so they do have some flexibility there.
But still, my question would be, okay, you say drones eventually could be faster, but I think it also depends on the scale of the monitoring that you want to do, because what about the line of sight issues? Yeah, maybe you can deploy them fast, but how long does it take then to complete the survey with the drones?
Yes, that's true. I mean, the line of sight, you mean the BVLOS? I mean, maybe let me just explain this. So BVLOS is the beyond visual line of sight. So we can call it an issue, but it's more of a regulation issue and like getting the permit to do it. And so once you do that, and it's not, of course, that easy, but once you do that, it enables you. So it does actually enable drones to do things more at scale once you have the BVLOS. So yes, I mean, definitely with satellites, you can cover thousands of kilometers of power lines much faster. But in terms of BVLOS, you would also now see things other than the BVLOS, even like fixed-wing drones that are ready now to carry LiDAR systems that are more accurate. So there are also some things in the drone industry that are being developed that will enable us to do things more at scale. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if there are any questions, but I would also have some questions if we don't.
There are actually two questions in the chat. Do you want to read them out, Ahmad?
Yeah, so what is the best image resolution a satellite can achieve?
Yeah, so today we can work up to 30 centimeters resolution, so 30. But there are constellations that are being funded right now and that should go online by the end of next year that are actually capable of going down to 10 centimeters of resolution. So usually the sweet spot when we talk about line asset monitoring, such as power lines or pipelines, the sweet spot is usually 50 centimeters in terms of costs and benefits. You can see most, I mean, all the vegetation at 50 centimeters resolution. But yeah, absolutely. Today we have the possibility to go down to 30 centimeters, and there are a few constellations already providing 30 centimeters resolution imagery.
Yeah, I guess the second question is kind of the same one, but for drones is like, what's a centimeter per pixel image with a drone, if I read that correctly. And yeah, I mean, with drones, you can really go to millimeter per pixel. So it depends on what is the payload that you are using, what's the type of service. Not every service would need something to millimeter accuracy or per pixel, but we can reach a millimeter accuracy here for sure.
All right.
And
no more questions.
We've got one question from Dervon. Let me. You can unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, good. Good. I'm not sure if it's morning or evening or night where you guys at. But this is Durban. Afternoon. It's morning where I'm at. I'm speaking from the Caribbean, the Cayman Islands. So we're also, I operate in the drone industry as well, and I just want to know from, I think, Nicole, the guys from Spottitt.
Yeah.
Pretty much regarding the comment you made regarding the wide scale use of satellites. Yeah, very good. I mean that covers a lot. But I guess one of the other questions we are always concerned about from a support perspective as it relates to how fast can a satellite be deployed if, say, for instance, there's an issue. I mean, we're in the Caribbean belt, so we're affected a lot by hurricane this time of the year, or from anywhere between end of June to pretty much like November thereabouts. So we're affected. So in a case where if there's a hurricane and there's lost communication, like if we pretty much need satellite service on this end of the hemisphere, how do we how do we deploy that to after passing of a hurricane to capture what damages would have been done. I know for drones, we're able to fast deploy the drones to capture both visual as well as point cloud data in the base of LiDAR. But how would that work if a client pretty much engage your services on this side of the hemisphere? What I mean, I guess my question would be, what provisions are put in place in an event such as that, where we need your service and comms are lost?
Yeah, no, very clear, very clear. So first point, so thank you for your question, first of all. And The first point is that satellites are available everywhere, and there are no differences, I mean, everywhere in the world. So there is no difference in our ability to capture an image in the Caribbean versus an image in Germany, for example. But you are correct in the sense that, of course, monitoring what's happening during a hurricane can be quite tricky. The images that we usually utilize to monitor the vegetation, to monitor things that are happening around the power lines are optical images. So they are affected by the weather. So when it's completely cloudy, of course, we cannot take those images. What you can do is to use SAR imagery, so radar images. Radar images are a bit more costly and provide a little, let's say, less information, in the sense that it's not as easy to understand what is actually going on in terms of classifying the type of object that you're seeing with the radar image, the SAR image. But it is an active sensor, so it sees through clouds. So in the case where extreme weather events are, let's say, a key things to monitor, what we suggest is to actually do regular passes with SAR images and apply the change detection algorithms to see exactly where the problem occurred. Maybe we are not exactly able to tell you what happened, and but we are able to tell you precisely the location of the event with the SAR images. Otherwise, as you just said, in order to get a more complete picture, yeah, you would have to wait after the event, and you can prioritize a satellite capture immediately after the event is finished. And I mean, if there are no clouds, or let's say if the cloud coverage is sufficient, we can get the image within a couple of days.
Okay, very good response. And one other point I wanted to make, like recently, like about, sorry, about a year ago, or about a year and say about 3 months ago, we kind of had a similar issue where we were working with a client, and they were pretty much utilizing the imagery from Google Earth to pretty much compare with what was happening on their site. However, they realized that, the imagery, when they engage us, we realized that, the imagery that they were looking at was, way outdated. So we offered them a free capture of using our drone technology to do a compare and comparison as to, what they were seeing on the side as opposed to what is actually there. And when they saw it, they were like blown away based on how accurate what we see in comparison to what they were seeing on Google Earth. I think one of the challenges here, as well as I guess for most people in the room, is that we know that Google don't own all the satellites, so the imagery on Google Earth is not necessarily always accurate. I mean that in that sphere of things, especially even so for a lot of utility companies. They may not have accurate data in terms of that's overlaid on, say, for instance, Google, or they may not have actually also accurate data within their GPS, their GIS system for their data. In terms of from that perspective, how does your solution from a satellite basis, help these guys when one challenge that they may not also have any raw data per se, KML, CSV, GeoJSON data of their pole or asset location?
Now, that's also a very good question, and thank you again. So, first of all, let me comment on the usage of Google Earth. It's not only about the accuracy. The main problem with using Google Earth is that it's not a monitoring tool, because simply the images are sometimes very old, so you cannot use it to monitor your assets in real time. But regarding the location of the assets, so that's a very good point actually. We with satellites, we actually need the location of the assets of our customers. We need it from them. When it comes to high voltage or sometimes medium voltage power lines, and when they are not below trees, of course we can spot the pylons. We can spot the pylon location, and sometimes we help our customers correct the location of their assets based on the satellite image. But it's not such a reliable method. So some pylons, I mean, high voltage pylons, we are able to see them all usually. Medium voltage sometimes. So you're correct. We need this kind of data beforehand in order to be accurate in our analysis. Because let me bring you the example of a customer that we just made a project with. They are from Italy, and basically we did the analysis, and then they had this corridor, 1 meter corridor that they wanted to keep clear from the vegetation. And so we did the analysis, and then they compared these analysis with their results, with their LiDAR data, and they said, no, it's all wrong. What's happening? And then we found out that their pylon location was at times more than 2 meters away from when they told us. So if we have to analyze a corridor of 1 meter and the power lines are 2 meters away, of course, all the analysis go wrong. So that's a really good point. We need the location of the assets in order to be accurate.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'll give other folks the opportunity to ask follow-up questions, but I guess we can continue the conversations after this. I mean, there's some stuff that we're working on here on the Caribbean side that I would be happy to engage both Hamad and yourself in, as well as also probably Elena.
Absolutely. No problems. Thank you. Elena, are there any other questions or comments in the chat?
Yes, I see that Amro wants to speak. Please unmute yourself.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Amro. I'm currently located in Germany. I have a question for Nicolo. Does dense vegetation affect the accuracy of satellite images? Because I believe if the satellite can't see the wires beneath it, it can't accurately see the vegetation as well. So does that play a role?
Sorry?
Let me just point out, of course, Amro, another co-founder from Dronodat, of course. So you can see where the perspective of this question is coming.
Okay. Thank you.
It's not fair to have 2 against 1.
That's true.
No, that's true. So again, when the vegetation is just above the power lines, for us it's very difficult to say to look at the distance between the vegetation and the power line, because with the optical image we just look, it's just a picture, right? Like if you take a picture with your phone, you don't see through the wall. So we cannot see through the walls with the optical image. That's the reality. So in cases in which the trees are right above the power lines, that can be tricky.
Thank you.
And we've got rather a comment here in the chat, but George, do you want to comment with your voice, actually, because it's quite long? Do you want to unmute yourself and share your perspective?
Yeah, sorry. Hi, everyone. Just to insist in my question, I was talking with Nicolot a few days ago regarding your great solutions, guys, pros and cons, both. Anyway, talking with utilities, DSO and TSO, they come with a recurrent question. Hey, guys, do you have a solution to vegetation control? So why, from their point of view, looks like the problem, the issue is not solved properly yet.
What do you mean by it's not solved properly? Sorry.
If current solutions like yours are good to solve the vegetation control, why, despite that, the DSO and TSOs come again and again with the same question? Hey, I'm working in HEPTA, a platform, AI-based, that we are agnostic of the input. We use satellite, helicopters, drones, whatever, of the data collected in the ground. So why the DSO and TSO are still asking, hey guys, help us with the vegetation control? If you have great solutions, why the question is coming again and again?
Yeah, I mean,
Ahmad.
yeah, I mean, I definitely get the question, and because it's not just about the capturing method. So what do they do actually with the data afterwards, and how do they manage their assets afterwards? So also from the question you wrote in text in the meeting chat, I do agree with you that you need some type of platform or something to manage and do the progress monitoring and to document everything, and also to apply AI and data analysis to the data, and to kind of try to automate this as much as possible and not just leave it to the workers there to kind of deal with the satellite images or LiDAR captured images that they should manage it on their own. So I do think a platform here or some type of an asset manager should help with this problem for sure. I hope I answered your question with this.
Yeah, thank you. Great, thank you.
And I would also argue that we don't operate, if you agree, Ahmad, we don't operate in the fastest industry ever, right? So
agreed,
the speed
very
of
much,
change is not
yeah.
It's not what we hope sometimes.
Totally agree.
I'm also wondering, we don't have any questions or comments, but I'm wondering if we have someone here today who actually tried, like a client, TCO or DSO, who actually tried both technologies in the past and can share his unbiased perspective. I understand that it wasn't like planned, but if you dare enough to share your hands-on experience, I think it would be highly appreciated by the audience.
This is too much.
Yeah, probably. I'm asking too much.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. We can.
I was joking, of course, if there is anyone.
I mean, just to comment here, I believe, both technologies has its very good application in terms of use cases, as was shared by, members of the panel. I guess from a consulting perspective, as well as a service provider, you really have to really know exactly or understand, what the client is trying to accomplish, and work with them to accomplish that. Because sometimes it also means that you will, based on budget, you will also need to pretty much integrate both solutions to get a complete deliverable based on what the client is looking for. So, there are cases when, pretty much we go in, a client may engage us and we go in and say, okay, we're doing just close visual inspection, but when we get out there in the field, realize that, this is not going to work. Only now we need LiDAR, because like there are often times when the clients pretty much don't know where their assets are. So from this is one of the use cases we have worked with. I can speak highly about this because this is something that happens regularly, especially with smaller utilities. You find that the utilities started out small, and then they grow, and then over the years as the population grows, they grow, And then you realize that, oh, they don't know where the assets are. So they're just going out there, planting poles, doing this. And then now they've come to a point where regulation changes and they need to do one pole. They need to do a pole. They need to know where the poles are, but they only know that, okay, we have electricity here and we have poles there, but we just don't know how many poles we have there. That's just one of the main issue. The other issue that they're gonna run into is from an insurance perspective. I mean, if you're in the Caribbean, you want to ensure that you're insuring all those assets, because when a hurricane comes, and if you under-insure, it means that you're going to have to find that utility, or your investors will have to find that excess to replace, not just the post, but the asset and the components. So that's one thing that we have seen and that we've been using, not only the close visual inspection from the RGB data, but also from the LiDAR perspective. We're able to now give them a full point cloud 3D digitalization data that aid them in the perspective of knowing where these assets are. Because I mean, I spoke at the conference in Miami just last month, and one of the things that we said, like, for LiDAR data, once you've captured that LiDAR data once, you don't need to do it again unless something drastically changed in the area. So you capture LiDAR data once, and based on whatever classification you want to classify from that, you pull those classification out. So things like we pull the LiDAR data out, we're able to build the contours, but we're also able to build the PLSCAD data from that to provide that to the utility to say, okay, I mean, we know where all the accurate locations of your poles are. We also know the length of your conductors. We can tell you if there's line sag, etc. So, I mean, the data itself, both solutions, as I said before, I mean, really applies based on use case, based on project deliverable, also based on cost. So it's just a matter of, as I said before, understanding and knowing where where that sweet spot in between solution and deliverable, as well as the client, and work together to pretty much build a complete solution to give to make the client happy. And once you make them happy, you'll always have them forever.
Thank you very much. That was a very interesting comment, and I think it hints us, it gives us the hint to go to the final session, unless I believe, Elena, you rule, but I believe that it's time to summarize.
Let's move on.
Right.
Let's move on. Actually, yeah, Ryan wants to add something. Please, okay. Ryan.
Quickly, maybe.
Unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I will do briefly. I know about LiDAR technology and topography. Basically capturing data with drones, but I am suspicious about satellite image. For example, if you imagine a big area, a wooded area, many trees, not just let's say, I don't know, few square kilometers. So a few kilometers on that way and a few other way. When you capture that with orthomosaic, you need ground control points to just that the data or the plane would not be skewed, so that the data would be precise. With LiDAR technology, that is quite simple. Well, it's accurate anyway. But let's say there's a medium voltage line in the middle of the wood. Under or the corridor right of way is also covered with dense and high vegetation, let's say 3 to 4 meters, not above the towers. So just like, and if you do the satellite analysis, you are not actually sure how without digital surface model or anything, the terrain model, how do you know how high is the vegetation if you know that the edges of the woods are like few kilometers away and you don't know the actual shadow heights? So this is the problem. Can satellite image still provide like accurate measurements just in the middle of the woods for the vegetation under the conductors? If I
I will answer very quickly again because thank you for your question. I will try and answer very quickly that yeah, we at Spottitt, we train these algorithms that allow us to understand the height of objects from a single image, so without having to take stereo imagery, because taking 2 or more satellite images of the same place would help on that. But we can also do it on a single image. But of course, there are cases in which it can be more or less accurate, and probably the one you're describing is probably particularly tricky. But indeed, satellites do not intend to compete on accuracy versus drones. This is never going to happen.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I mean, that's also, I guess, a good segue to the final part, I would say, which is, yeah, I mean, definitely, as you said, there are disadvantages there and advantages there with drones and satellites. And you can also say that some services are more fit with to satellites and some others to drones. And some others also are kind of, the best way is to actually combine both. So if satellites are lacking accuracy, as we were saying, drones can cover that. And if we're lacking scalability, satellites can cover that for us. So kind of a joint solution and a hybrid solution, I think would make the most sense. And for certain services, so like vegetation management or pipeline inspections. And yeah, so this is a comparison kind of methods of data collection. And the first one is manual methods. So definitely at the beginning, if you don't want to spend any time to digitalize or automate your solution and kind of just stick with the manual methods, just drive around with the car and look with your eye and so on, at the end of the day, it will cost you a lot. So either it's a wildfire or a power outage or kind of insurance companies sending you a lot of emails, and so at the end of the day it will cost you. And also the speed of that is not good, and accuracy, you can't even like determine that. So I mean, I think most people here would agree that manual methods are out of the window. And so satellites would be, as Nicolo said, it's the cheapest, it is the fastest in terms of scaled projects. And yeah, we're not talking like about operation flexibility or anything, but on a terms of a scaled project, it is the fastest. And with accuracy, it does reach to 50 centimeters, also 30 centimeters, of course, as you said, Nicolo. And hopefully by end of next year, we see 10 centimeters. With helicopters, I mean, it is kind of the most expensive, or at least more expensive than drones. And it is faster. And you can get also some high accuracies. You can get 2 to 10 centimeters, and even higher, I guess, at some point, depends. But the more expensive the payload, you know, the more impractical your solution will be. So you don't really, it depends also on every service or what are you trying to solve here. And with drones, you do have higher price than satellites, less than helicopters. And it is slower than satellites, and but it does deliver the highest accuracy. So definitely a hybrid solution here would give you the advantage of everything. So it would give you the best price. We wouldn't need to go all over and scan everything, and so it will help us satellites to determine exactly where to go, and we can give you a much higher accuracy there. So the whole the speed of finalizing the project would be much better also for drones, and we also will provide them the accuracy with satellites. So yeah, I would say the verdict is to have a joint solution, a hybrid solution. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, Ahmad, did you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say that basically, I wouldn't go too much into detail. I think that's the next slide for you to kind of explain how would a hybrid solution look like exactly.
Yeah, I will do it quite quickly to describe one of the projects that we did together. So working with a German electricity DSO, we really liked Spottitt starting from data coming from from the drones and LiDAR data because of 2 reasons. The first reason, yeah, is that it actually allowed us to understand and have the information about the exact asset position not only the location, but also the height of every asset and the precise height of the lines of the cables, which is again information that with satellites alone we couldn't get. At the same time, the drone data allowed us to train our artificial intelligence, which also helps satellites with the accuracy. And then what the customer did is to basically get a few satellite images at scale in order to prioritize, and this is just prior to the trimming, let's say, season. They asked us to take this satellite image of the whole network, and based on that, they were able to prioritize areas where to send the contractor and to cut or trim the trees. The customer also further used the drones in order to inspect the specific areas at risk according to the information that they got from their asset management system regarding the health conditions of the assets or specific locations in which we couldn't, for example, reach with satellites because of the reason that one of the guests mentioned previously. So you can go there and be more accurate and see further details also about the asset health conditions with the drones. And after the work was done, basically we validated the work being done by the contractor with the satellites again. So we took a second pass with satellites in order to see if the vegetation was trimmed correctly. So with Spottitt MF, we provide data about the volume of biomass in the corridor and this kind of data. So it's very easy to compare the difference between the first pass and the second pass and see if the work has been done correctly. And this is why, and I think we are heading towards the conclusion. So I think after, maybe is there any comment? I heard something. Okay. I would just conclude saying that indeed we see a lot an appetite for the trialing these solutions combined, because you know, there are a lot of pilot tests that we see companies are doing with the satellites, drones, but then it becomes really a challenge to understand how to integrate these technologies between one another and between the systems that the company has in place already. So we are happy to partner with companies like Dronodat and potentially other companies to offer, let's say, standard pilot test packages of the combined solution to be carried out in 2024. It would be 6 months pilot test. You would have both the results from satellites and drones, and you would really see the effects and the benefits of this fully digital solution for network monitoring. So if you're interested, we would be happy to receive an email from you. There is a specific email you can write to, and we'll be glad to send you a quick one-pager to show you how the pilot would work, and then we can take it from there. So thank you very much.